I never wanted to be part of a homeowners association. The very idea of paying someone to tell me what I could and couldn't do with my own property seemed ridiculous. Growing up, my father always talked about the importance of land ownership and the freedom that came with it. But when I found the perfect house in Oakwood Estates, 3 bedrooms, a finished basement, and a backyard that backed up to a nature preserve, I decided I could tolerate the HOA rules. After all, how bad could it be? I learned exactly how bad on my 3rd day in the neighborhood when I met Karen Winters, the HOA president. I was installing a birdhouse in my front yard oak tree when a silver Mercedes pulled into my driveway. A woman with an immaculate blonde bob and oversized sunglasses emerged, clipboard in hand. She marched toward me with the confidence of someone who had never been told no in her life. "Excuse me," she said with a thin smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Karen Winters, president of the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association. That birdhouse is in violation of Section 4, Paragraph 7 of our community guidelines." I stepped down from my ladder and extended my hand. "Hi, Karen. I'm Daniel Harrison. Nice to meet you." She ignored my outstretched hand and thrust the clipboard toward me instead. "All exterior decorative elements must be approved by the Architecture Committee before installation. The form is right here. Once submitted, approval takes 4 to 6 weeks." I stared at her, trying to determine if this was some sort of welcome to the neighborhood prank. "It's just a birdhouse. For birds. Rules are rules, Mr. Harrison. We maintain property values in Oakwood Estates by ensuring aesthetic uniformity. That birdhouse isn't on the approved list of yard accessories," she said with a voice that managed to be simultaneously sugary and ice-cold. I took a deep breath and reminded myself that I'd dealt with difficult people before in my work as an environmental compliance inspector for the EPA. "I'll take it down for now and submit the form. Is there anything else I should know about?" Karen's face brightened at my apparent submission. "Smart choice. The committee rejected 3 birdhouse applications last month alone." She handed me a thick binder. "Here's the complete guidelines book. I recommend reading it cover to cover. Violations can result in fines starting at $50. As she walked back to her Mercedes, Karen called over her shoulder, "Welcome to Oakwood Estates, Mr. Harrison." I thumbed through the binder. 147 pages of rules governing everything from acceptable mailbox designs to the maximum height of garden gnomes. This was going to be a longer adjustment period than I'd anticipated. The next few weeks passed relatively peacefully. I submitted my birdhouse application, complete with color samples and precise measurements as required by the 17-page application form. I also got to know my neighbors, who uniformly rolled their eyes when I mentioned Karen. Apparently, her HOA presidency was less about community service and more about having power over her neighbors. "She's on her 4th term," whispered my next-door neighbor, Ellen, as we chatted over the fence. "Nobody runs against her anymore. Last person who tried had their trash mysteriously dumped on their lawn every week until they withdrew." I laughed, thinking she was joking. Ellen didn't laugh back. The real trouble started when I received my first official HOA violation notice. It was taped to my door in a bright red envelope. "Urgent compliance required." According to the notice, my grass was 1/4 inch above the maximum allowed height of 3 inches. I had 24 hours to remedy the situation or face a $75 fine. I grabbed my measuring tape and checked several spots in my lawn. The grass was exactly 3 inches everywhere I measured. Still, I mowed it anyway, not wanting to start a war over a 1/4 inch of grass. But this was just the beginning. Over the next month, I received violation notices for a garden hose visible from the street, a barely perceptible oil spot on my driveway, having my garage door open for more than 15 minutes while unloading groceries, and my personal favorite, excessive bird activity around my newly approved and installed birdhouse. Each time, I addressed the supposed violation, but it was becoming clear that I was being targeted. The final straw came when I returned home from a week-long conference to find my yard strewn with garbage, food wrappers, junk mail, even what appeared to be kitchen waste. I was photographing the mess when Karen's Mercedes glided to a stop at my curb. She stepped out, clipboard in hand as always. "TSK, Mr. Harrison, she said with exaggerated disappointment. Improper trash disposal is a $200 fine. It looks like you didn't secure your garbage properly before your trip. I put my phone away and faced her. Karen, my trash bins are still in my garage, locked, as they have been all week while I was away at a conference. This garbage was dumped here deliberately. She raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. Are you suggesting someone in our community would do such a thing? That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof? Not yet, I admitted. But it's strange that I've received more violation notices in 1 month than most residents get in a year. Karen's smile was reptilian. Perhaps you're simply not accustomed to living in a quality neighborhood with standards, Mr. Harrison. The fines are detailed in your violation notice. Payment is due within 7 days. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and the architecture committee has revoked approval for your birdhouse due to the excessive wildlife it's attracting. It needs to be removed by tomorrow. As she drove away, I noticed several neighbors watching from their windows and porches. Ellen gave me a sympathetic wave. Another neighbor, an older gentleman, shook his head in disgust. I spent the next hour cleaning up the trash. As I worked, I noticed something interesting. Several pieces of mail addressed to Karen Winters mixed in with the garbage. Even more interesting were the crumpled pages that appeared to be drafts of HOA violation notices with my address already filled in, just waiting for specific violations to be added. That night, I did some thinking and research. As an EPA inspector, I was familiar with local environmental regulations, including those governing waste disposal and dumping. What Karen had done, and I was now certain it was her, wasn't just petty harassment. It was illegal dumping, and I had the evidence to prove it. The next morning, I called in a personal day from work and set my plan in motion. I installed 2 discrete security cameras overlooking my front yard, technically allowed by the HOA rules as security devices, though I suspected Karen would find some violation in their placement eventually. Then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. That evening, while pretending to be away by leaving my house dark, I watched through my front window as Karen's Mercedes pulled up. She quickly exited her car, dumped a bag of trash on my lawn, and drove away. The entire incident was captured perfectly on my new cameras. Rather than confronting her immediately, I decided to gather more evidence. Over the next 2 weeks, Karen repeated her trash dumping 3 more times. Each incident was meticulously recorded, along with the cleanup costs I incurred and documentation of the illegally dumped waste, some of which included discarded household chemicals and electronics that qualified as regulated waste under state environmental laws. With my evidence compiled, I requested a meeting with the full HOA board, of which Karen was president, but which included 4 other neighborhood residents. Karen tried to deny my request, but the HOA bylaws clearly stated that any homeowner could address the board with proper notice, which I had provided. The evening of the meeting arrived, and I came prepared with a folder of documentation and a USB drive containing the video evidence. The meeting was held in our community center with about 20 curious neighbors in attendance. We'll now hear from Daniel Harrison regarding his concerns, announced the board secretary, looking nervously at Karen, who sat with her arms crossed and a bored expression on her face. I walked to the front of the room. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll be brief. For the past 6 weeks, I've been subjected to selective enforcement of HOA rules and targeted harassment, culminating in someone repeatedly dumping garbage on my property. Karen interrupted with an exasperated sigh. Mr. Harrison, we've already addressed your inability to properly dispose of your trash. If you've called this meeting to contest your fines, I'm afraid. Actually, I said, connecting my laptop to the room's projector, I've called this meeting to address the illegal activities of our HOA president. The room went silent as I played the first video, clearly showing Karen dumping trash on my lawn. I followed with 3 more videos documenting different incidents. What you're seeing is not just a violation of HOA bylaws regarding neighbor harassment, I explained as Karen's face drained of color. It's also a violation of state environmental laws regarding illegal dumping. As some of you know, I work for the Environmental Protection Agency as a compliance inspector. The improper disposal of household chemicals and electronic waste, as documented here, carries potential fines of up to $10,000 per incident under state law. Murmurs spread through the room. Karen stood up, her voice shrill. This is ridiculous. Those videos could be anyone, and I'm sure you planted those so-called chemicals yourself. I calmly laid out the rest of my evidence. The mail address to Karen found in the trash, the pre-written violation notices, and testimonials from 3 neighbors who had witnessed her dumping trash and had provided signed statements. I've already filed a report with the County Environmental Enforcement Division, I concluded. Their investigation will begin tomorrow. However, I'm willing to request leniency if Ms. Winters immediately resigns from the HOA board, agrees to pay for professional cleaning of my property, and commits in writing to cease all harassment. The board members looked at each other in shock. One of them, a retired attorney named Richard, cleared his throat. Karen, is there anything you'd like to say in your defense? Karen's composure finally cracked. This is absurd. I've devoted years to maintaining standards in this community. Who cares about a few pieces of trash when this man, she pointed a trembling finger at me, has been undermining the very fabric of our neighborhood with his blatant disregard for our rules? Richard winced. I think we need a brief recess to discuss this as a board. Everyone, please stay seated. The board members huddled in a corner while Karen paced furiously nearby. After about 10 minutes, they returned to their seats. The board has reached a decision, Richard announced. Karen Winters is hereby removed as president, effective immediately, pending a full investigation of these allegations. Vice President Thomas will assume presidential duties. Additionally, the board apologizes to Mr. Harrison for any harassment he has experienced and will review all fines issued to him, with the presumption that they will be rescinded. Karen's face contorted with rage. You can't do this. I built this HOA from nothing. Additionally, Richard continued, ignoring her outburst, we will cooperate fully with any environmental investigation and encourage Ms. Winters to seek legal counsel regarding the allegations of illegal dumping. The meeting adjourned in chaos as Karen stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Several neighbors approached to shake my hand, some sharing their own stories of Karen's tyrannical behavior over the years. The County Environmental Division took my case seriously, especially given my professional background. Their investigation concluded within 3 weeks, finding Karen guilty of multiple violations. She was fined $4,000 and required to complete 60 hours of community service with the county's environmental cleanup program. The professional and personal consequences for Karen extended beyond the legal penalties. As word spread about her actions, her real estate business suffered. Apparently, clients were hesitant to work with an agent who had been caught illegally dumping trash. She eventually relocated to another community, selling her Oakwood Estates house at well below market value. As for the HOA, the new leadership adopted a more reasonable approach to rule enforcement. The birdhouse clause was amended to allow standard-sized models without pre-approval. My original birdhouse was grandfathered in, and the birds seemed as happy as ever with their home. Sometimes, when I'm sitting on my porch watching the birds flutter around my yard, I think about Karen and the lesson she learned the hard way. Before you dump trash on someone's lawn, make very sure you know what they do for a living.